It's the agenda, stupid. And that is a takeoff of It's the Economy, Stupid. Why Americans disagree. I was thinking about this a lot this weekend because I know that people were probably trying to communicate around their Thanksgiving tables, and I just kind of let some ideas percolate, quite honestly. We watched an episode of The Romanovs wherein kind of a crazy director was manipulating the actors to get the performance she wanted. And some of the ideas just coalesced, percolated. And I woke up thinking about some of these concepts. So I want to begin with what most Americans believe. And I believe this cuts across most ideological barriers. Most Americans believe that, for one thing, things are messed up. People look around and see different issues, and I think most Americans agree that we have problems in the United States, and most of us are looking for solutions, I believe. I believe that most Americans believe that the world could be a better place, a much better place, actually. I believe that most Americans would agree on that concept. And another issue that I believe most Americans would agree on is that the few determine the destinies of the many. Now, I will acknowledge that people probably disagree regarding who the few are. Alternative media people might believe that George Soros and some of the people that he's associated with are the few, while, some Americans might believe that President Trump and some of his friends are the few. So I acknowledge that. Again, I acknowledge that. But I believe most Americans do feel that there is injustice because a few people determine the destinies of the many in the United States. So those are the things about which I believe most Americans agree. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. What do progressives believe will fix the world's problems? I believe that progressives seek to abolish the past. Progressives believe that many of our problems have roots in the past and in tradition, and they would like to just simply deny it, abolish it, not learn necessarily from the lessons of history, but just move on. I think that they're ready to just overthrow. And I didn't have a Pussy Riot photo here, which I think I kind of had in mind. But this statement, become ungovernable. This is war. I think that many progressives want a violent sort of divorce, if you will, from the past. I think that progressives tend to want to reinvent human existence. And I'm thinking about leaving behind what, maybe traditional ideas about male and female. Actually, to me, a lot of this seems like denial, but here's my bias. I am not a progressive. I'm a conservative who is really trying to understand progressives and hopefully explain them to some extent as well. Now, here's something interesting: what progressives believe will fix the world's problems. Interestingly enough, conservatives are often accused of being Nazis, authoritarian. I believe that progressives, based on their behavior and what they ask for from government, actually believe that human potential is best developed through the oversight of authority. And when I say authority, of course, what I really mean is government. And again, progressives ask the government and government figures for social justice. They see human potential being developed as dependent on being facilitated by someone in authority. So those are the four areas: abolish the past, scrap tradition, reinvent human existence. And human potential is best developed through the oversight of authority, generally government. Those are the four precepts, not all, but I'm just trying to identify differences here, what progressives believe will fix the world's problems. So let's move on now to what conservatives believe will fix the world's problems. Conservatives believe that traditional historic lifestyles, institutions, and values, and by institutions, I'm not referring to like the IRS, God help us. I'm referring to the institution of the family, local government, the community, the influence of the church. Conservatives believe that, I wouldn't say that conservatives believe that things were better in the past, but I do believe that conservatives believe that ongoing human existence, successful existence, depends on building on the foundation of what has worked in the past. And many things have. I mean, I don't think we can adequately judge right now in our culture and society whether or not the family is an institution that can facilitate a successful lifestyle, because we don't see very many successful families. Communities have pretty much fallen by the wayside. Our community is, our friends on Facebook, not people that we face-to-face interact with every day. So there are some major changes to how traditional institutions function. And I think that conservatives believe that if the layers can be peeled away and we can return to these traditional institutions as the foundations of our society, that humanity will have greater success. There's also, I believe, that conservatives believe in tried and true paths to joy and fruitfulness. An image I have here is of a lady who is praying, and I believe that is very significant, and a very significant aspect of what conservatives believe can heal humanity, is a connection to the Holy Creator. And again, this has in the past facilitated great success of humanity. There have been Christian communities and cultures that fared very well. In fact, I've read that most did up until some of the changes were made by Constantine. So I think that most conservatives believe that there is hope in having a relationship with God and following God's precepts. Another thing that I believe that conservatives believe will help to fix the world's problems is a realization that there is nothing new under the sun. That communism, socialism, and other alternatives have been tried and have failed. Just as faith in God and a solid family have proven to be successful foundations for a culture, society, community, communism and socialism have proven to fail humanity and have proven that they don't help, really. They simply exacerbate the problems. And some of this probably has to do with the very nature of man, that, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Another, and this is the fourth, because I had 4 for the progressives, what conservatives believe will fix the world's problems. Human potential is best developed through self-determination and free association, that rather than what progressives seem to want, to have authority imposed on them and to follow mandates, to depend on authorities for justice and success. The opposite of that, or maybe not the opposite, maybe the inverse, is what I believe conservatives believe, that human potential is best developed through freedom, through recognizing the needs that we have and finding ways in our lives to have those needs met through work, through association. And the free association aspect means that rather than having government relationships, whatever, imposed upon us, that we freely make choices and determine for ourselves with whom we desire to relate, to whom we submit our lives, to whom we give our money, so on and so forth. So those are the contrasts between conservative belief and progressive belief that causes, I believe, some of the rifts between us. There is another influence. There are probably many other influences, but a negative influence, an influence that exacerbates the divisions and that highlights our disagreements, is a hidden self-serving agenda that demands America's destruction. And you may think that that phrasing is a little too dramatic, but a gentleman for whom I have a lot of respect, who is kind of a new age guy, he does not like to identify enemies that are external. He believes that we are our own worst enemy, and that the enmities that we experience originate internally. And I'm sure most of you have heard that kind of philosophy, and people refer to dualism or duality as an enemy construct. But even that friend, who is very hesitant to identify external enemies, calls what many refer to as the cabal as a death cult. And referring to the Bible, putting this in biblical terms, Jesus said, the devil comes only to kill, steal, and destroy. But I, meaning Jesus, came that you might have life and that more abundantly. So this idea that, there is a motivation, there is a drive that acts against humanity, and the goal of that drive is to kill, steal, and destroy. Nothing else. And this is reality. There are those who desire to destroy the human race. And I want to reference the Georgia Guidestones that state that, a significant portion of humanity needs to be exterminated. That's, not my word, but it needs to be exterminated for the benefit of the earth. And we see this agenda actually being played out through things like chemtrails, the fires in California, vaccines that cause significant percentages of children to be autistic, on and on. GMOs, I won't go through the entire list. Time does not permit. But I just wanted to emphasize that not only do we have differences of opinion as to how to solve humanity's problems, but we also have an external force that exacerbates those differences in order to cause us to hate one another, have more suspicion for one another, to cause us to fail to work together as the brothers and sisters that we are. And the most significant aspect of this, of course, is the press, the mainstream media, the legacy media, dinosaur media, however you want to refer to it, that really does serve to promote the dark agenda in a subtle way, of course. They're not saying, hey, we need to kill, millions and millions of people, but they say, hey, you must vaccinate your children or you're a bad parent. So this and the division is promoted, stirring up hatred between different factions of society. And so there is that pressure. Now, I want to move toward true remedies that hopefully everyone who has concerns about the state and destiny of humanity agree that, would be able to agree and facilitate these remedies. First of all, is new tech that has maybe not even new, maybe just has been suppressed for some time. That new energy technologies, new water technologies that would can make the desert bloom. That some of these things can be put into place and significantly change the condition of humanity. Healthy families. I think that, no matter what somebody believes a family consists of, I think everybody can agree that we need to have families as the building block of society, that we need core groups where we feel comfortable, where we are able to be nurtured, where we can safely raise children, and where people can thrive. I don't think that anybody would disagree that that is a human need. We also have the remedy that's needed of nurture of the human spirit. And whatever form you feel this, should take, however you personally relate to God, whatever kinds of inner healing you seek, this is something that I think most Americans would agree that the human spirit requires nurturing. And there definitely are ways to do this. And this is one of the true remedies for humanity and our nation. We also need to heal the earth. And a lot of conservatives don't have the opportunity really to communicate very much about our feelings, and I'll include myself, and I'm really expressing a little frustration that I have, because so many environmental concerns are linked to issues that I believe are false, like global warming. A lot of conservatives don't express a lot of care or concern for the earth because we're so busy defending our position that carbon dioxide is good for plants and therefore good for the earth. But it is something that I think most people are very aware of. And one thing that the emphasis on carbon dioxide as a toxin, which it's not, has done is to blind many people to some of the real problems that we have. Some of the pollution, the toxins, the pesticides in water, the pesticides in farmland, the algae blooms that we have because of agricultural runoff that destroy beaches and prevent communities from accessing their fresh water supplies for sometimes weeks at a time. So again, one of the remedies is we need to heal the earth. And some of the new technologies also have the capabilities of doing this. I believe I've read that growing hemp leaches toxins from the soil. Paulownia trees, which are another great crop for healing the earth, leach toxins from the soil and easily produce many other products, or lend themselves to being turned into many products that people actually need. So, and of course, the truest remedy is miracles. And there certainly are God holy miracles, which I look for and believe in. But I'm also thinking right now of the movie Bruce Almighty, and Jim Carrey is sadly no longer one of my favorite actors. But the quote from Bruce Almighty that is dear to my heart is, be the miracle. We all can facilitate healing for humanity and the earth by being the miracle. And one of the basic aspects of that is being able to communicate with other people and work together. And my hope in highlighting some of these differences in the ways that conservatives and progressives see the world, the nation, our problems, the solutions, is the hope that in understanding we can realize that we really have more in common than we typically acknowledge, and that it's time for us all to set aside our differences and find ways to work together. Thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed this presentation.